Check out these Holley valve covers I recently acquired. Swap on to the 357 here. Peel the gold roll soles off. These here, these fuckers are ancient. And they're still worth a pretty penny. But getting them bastards to seal and shit ain't even gonna bother. They're so fucking thin and shit. They're easy to bend. So these steel roll soles, these are old motherfuckers too, back in the day. I got a few options on valve covers. These are from an old buddy of mine, Tim Brennan. He had a machine shop back in the day, building racing engines pretty much exclusively. A lot of tractor pull shit. Good old boy. He had a 68 Chevy. He drag raced also. He had a 68 Chevy step side called the chicken truck. Had a rubber chicken hanging out of the fucking ass of it. But it was tubbed out at 15 by 3. Welds on the front, 15s on the back. Had some kind of G-Force 5-speed in it, 406 with a tunnel ram. That thing ran like fucking 580s in the 8th with a small block NA, small block Chevy and a 68 Chevy step side. But his name is Tim Brannon. Here's one of his valve covers. He's an engine. He include a pair of aluminum valve covers with his fucking name on them. Pretty good old boy though. He had a machine shop. I wish he was still in business. He was that motherfucker get on the ball. He was a go-getter. He'd get your shit done quick, and it'd be as good or better than anybody on the fucking planet. But he aged out, retired. I don't even know if he's still alive. I ain't heard nothing about him in fucking years. I'm liking these Holleys though. I seen an episode of fucking Engine Masters. David Freiberger and Steve Dosici. Those cats. Shit they fuck with. Bewley, Steve Bewley. There's the real brains of the group. Motherfucker, don't let him fool you. He's built some amazing shit in his fucking day, long before that TV show existed. I was reading about engines he built, like back in the fucking 80s and shit. They were making way more horsepower than they should have been. So he's Brule, he's a smart motherfucker. He likes big block Chevys, is his thing. Which, I like them my goddamn self. So, nothing wrong with that. But they had an episode with a small block on there. They were turning up $8,000 or $8,500 or some shit. Had a pair of these fucking valve covers on it. I thought them motherfuckers are cool as shit. They're supposed to be like a classic series. But Holley, back in the day, like fucking Mickey Thompson valve covers and shit, they were really Holley. Holley would let people buy their fucking castings and put their name on them and shit. It's like he's fucking hardened marine. 455 Oldsmobile valve covers. Come off a jet boat, 455 Olds. But they're made by Holley. They're Mickey Thompson. Holley, they're the same fucking valve covers. But back in the 60s, I used to have this wasn't back in the 60s, this was in the 80s. I had a pair of Cal Customs that were from the 60s. They were like late 60s valve covers. And they look just like these motherfuckers, except instead of where they say Holley, they said Cal Custom. But the valve cover shape, the way the fucking fins, all this shit, the whole goddamn, the whole fucking valve cover is identical to that old Cal Custom late 60s valve cover. But I think Holley made these back then, and they just fucking let Cal Custom use their cores and put Cal Custom on them. And whoever else wanted to use them, I guess, Holley pimped them out. So that fucking basic valve cover been around since like fucking late 60s. These are brand new. Good luck finding any of them old late 60s fuckers, and when you do, people want crazy money for that shit. Big fucking money. I've looked. Hell, these motherfuckers here, they brand new. And they set my ass back about 2 bills, $200. And that was actually a fucking deal. Typically they're $250, $300 a fucking pair. I worked a deal with straight through fucking Holley. Best place to buy their shit is from them, actually. If you're gonna buy anything from Holley, buy it straight from fucking Holley. They got some killer fucking deals on shit. I've bought many products from them. But a lot of times, like, you're looking on eBay or something, you're looking for your best price on something, and it happens to be a Holley product or owned by Holley, the cheapest you're gonna fucking get it is from Holley. So get these fuckers for about 2 bills from Holley, but some assholes are charging $300 a fucking pair and shit. Those middlemen, it's best to cut them out and buy them straight from the fucking source. I put the old GM style 14-inch diameter smooth top fucking air cleaner on there. That's a Moroso 14x4 filter. It's a Moroso air cleaner. A 750 custom pro form and shit. Got a fuel pressure gauge. I figure these black valve covers, since this fucking engine's pretty much blacked out. Blacked out. The block's black, the water pump's black, the pulleys are black. So, keeping with that theme, aluminum heads and intake and shit. And cast aluminum valve covers, but black coated. So they fucking, they match. Match the combo. Got a little bit of gold splashed in there just to. So all my fucking T-bolts won't fit with these headers. That's why there's a T-bolt missing on each side. Because you can't tighten down the valve covers with T-bolts with these headers on. You gotta put them on first and then have them perfectly parallel with the valve cover, but I'll just run that temporary with these fucking headers anyway. It's getting chassis headers, and then I'll put the fourth T-bolt in, and that'll be all good. There's a million ways to do these fucking small block Chevys. I don't think anybody think they're doing something new. There's probably been 10,000 other motherfuckers done the exact same thing before you. Fucking before you was even born. That's the way it is with these little small block Chevys. I mean, you can make them look different shit. Add better parts. Bigger parts, more radical shit. But the same basic idea of pumping out the power has pretty much been a constant since they've been making these fuckers, period. They started hot rodding these engines day one. Matter of fact, fucking GM, one story I heard back in 1954, they had a couple of small block Chevy 265s. These were the first small block Chevys, and they had two 265s ready to go. But before they went into production, these were the prototypes. So they call up old Smokey Unique and send them over to him, see what he think about it. And he takes them apart and tells them they're fucking, tells GM, tells Chevy that they're fucking junk and need to change a bunch of shit. The valve train wasn't worth a fuck, but Smokey Unique revised the original small block Chevy. But the one version he just dissected and fucking figured out what all was wrong with it. And the other version he enhanced it, so it was modified before it was actually even put into production. The Smokey Unique, he was a badass, famous NASCAR engine builder and shit. And he was the guy when GM needed advice, they'd call Smokey. You know, he was, fucker could do anything. He was a genius. Probably never be another Smokey Unique ever, because people are too fucking dumbed down to even, he's from a different time. He was an old man when he died. He was in the middle of building a retro top fuel Hemi, like a 1966 top fuel dragster, like Don Perdome's dragster that won the 66 U.S. Nationals or some shit. Allegedly, that's the engine Smokey was working on. He fucking dropped dead of a heart attack. He was old as fucking hell. But he did this shit to the day he died, literally. Smokey, so he had a big hand in the small block Chevy and how it turned out, but people started fucking with him right away. A lot of people think his shit's modern. They had fucking roller rockers for small block Chevys like in the late 50s. Roller cams, fucking big dome pistons and shit. Motherfuckers were porting out cylinder heads. Hell, they were casting special one-off cylinder heads and shit. People would make their own fucking heads and shit. You see all kind of crazy shit from back in the late 50s up the early 60s. All the innovators were figuring them out and figuring out what works and what don't work. A lot of crazy shit came about in them days. And those were the pioneers of hot rodding. Smart motherfuckers. Smokey Unique happened to be one of them. There are a few others. Legends. But he was one of the best to ever live. Something fascinating about this shit. I just can't fucking look at a modern engine and get excited. This old shit, these fucking things are like 70 years old this year. So this is based on a 70-year-old fucking engine. So that's just something cool about that fact alone. With the same basic architecture here. Now that comes from a 70-year-old fucking engine. And this fucker here will make some power. Make a hell of a lot more than it did 70 fucking years ago. Especially when you build them like this. I done built so many of these fucking things. There's a lot of ways to build them, but my advice to people is keep it simple. Keep it clean. Like keep all your plug wires fucking routed and shit. Not all fucking wadded up. And if you can't run them under your exhaust, and you gotta run them up between your fucking headers, like these need to be, really. They got these fucking clips that come out where you can run the wires through and then snake them back behind the valve cover. But I like the valve covers to be unencumbered. Let them fuckers, let them show. Plus, if you need to take them off quick, you ain't got a bunch of fucking wires and shit in your way. You just need 4 T-bolts so I can have valve cover off about a fucking minute. Less than a fucking minute. Instead of having to get a wrench and shit, and extension in the socket, and had to take more time to do all that. By the time I went and got a ratchet and a fucking extension and socket, I'd done had the fucker off with just T-bolts. So I've always used them on most all my fucking engines. It's a better way to go. $2 bills, that's what that'll get you. $200 fucking dollars. I didn't have to have them, but I just fucking wanted them. They were looking mighty good on that fucking Engine Masters fucking TV show. They had me jonesing pretty fucking hard. Looking at them made me want to buy. That's must be some subliminal advertisement in that shit, because made me want to fucking buy a pair. There they are. Fucking went for it. I think they look pretty damn good. Get these big turbo headers off. Be able to see them a lot better. Get the conventional headers on there. It'll look better. These fucking Moroso valve covers. Here's another tip. If you're looking through, or plug wires, if you're needing plug wires, you can't go wrong with fucking Moroso shit. I've been using these fuckers forever. And they fucking last longer than anything else. They hold their shit. And like the custom fit, they're usually pretty much perfect right out of the fucking box. They're kind of pricey, but you know, if you ain't gotta buy if you got a set of wires that last 10 fucking years, cost you $100 versus a $20-$30 pair that if some fuckers last a year, you're doing good. So over the long run, you might as well just bite the fucking bullet and spend the $100, which ain't bad for them. It's pretty cheap. And they work fine. Always get you some good head bolts and all your hardware and shit. Replace everything. This started with a bare block, really. All mine do is, there's the next victim. There's how they start right there. That's batter up right there. I'm gonna put some serious shit in that motherfucker. I got a Moldex crank in there and some Brooks rods and Brooks pistons, 355 cubic inch. I'm thinking about sticking it all on this fucking block here. I'm gonna drag it to the machine shop here one day soon and get it squared up and fucking perfected. Put a giant fucking roller cam and shit in it. Check out my 670 Pontiac heads here. Examining, looking at cams and shit. Ain't a whole lot of off-the-shelf shit I like, really. I think I'm gonna custom order a fucking cam from Bullet. It don't cost much more than a shelf cam. I mean, it's a little more, but it's well fucking worth it. If you pretty well know what you need or want. I mean, if you're an idiot, don't try to go buy you a custom fucking cam. But the cam I'm gonna go with is similar to one I used in a Pontiac engine I built a long fucking time ago, but it's no longer available. It'll be around 250, 260 at 50, and 550 intake, 575 exhaust lift, and 108 lobe separation. Something real close to that. That's the cam I'm gonna throw in this 400 with these 670 heads. Pretty damn good old fucking Ram Air 1 400 heads. Got some aftermarket studs in them already. Guess they're big block Chevy screw-in studs. It could be 7/16 small block Chevy studs, but either or. I ain't measured them. Well, I'm gonna take these fuckers down, and they're going to the machine shop and getting the works. I'm gonna probably have to break out the grinder. Fucking at least bowl port them and shit, and port match like the intake runners to a Ram Air 4 gasket, and open it, match the exhaust to the exhaust gasket, and bowl port them, put new some Varia valves and shit, and new springs and retainers and 10-degree locks and all the shit. And just matching. I'm going to use a solid roller cam, so I'm going to need about, but it ain't going to be a real big one, so 200 pounds seat pressure probably be enough. 500 open be plenty. That way I can use a spring that's about the diameter as the springs that are in there now, which those are aftermarket springs. I don't know what they are, but they're something. Maybe old cranes or something. Fuck if I know. But it's pretty much been dicking around with small block Chevys out here. You know what sucks about this shit though? If you get old, you get no friends and shit. You spend all your time alone. You build these things. You'd like to show somebody, but you have nobody to show. There's nobody gives a fuck in my real life that even wants to fucking look at this shit. You know, don't give a fuck. So that's the way it was when I was a kid. I built model cars like there was no fucking tomorrow. You know, I've built probably a couple thousand of them in my lifetime. But I was always building these model cars, and I'd fucking, hell, I've won model car contest and shit. Nobody gave a fuck. So it's like I had all these fucking model cars on shelves in my room and shit, but I never showed them to nobody. Nobody ever saw them. It kind of makes it suck, really. It's like if you paint a painting but never show it to anybody, does it make a fuck, you know? Does it make it any better or worse? I don't know. Sometimes I just ponder my thoughts. I guess that's one reason I make these fucking YouTube videos, is somebody out there might learn from this shit. If you want to go down this road, prepare for a lifetime of it. It definitely become your life. All this fucking shit. And you get old and you start wondering if you'll live long enough to fucking see it all through. I mean, this ain't even the half of the shit I got, really. I got shit in 5 fucking places. This is just the immediate projects. It's like I'm battling fucking time or something. The older you get, the more motherfuckers you see die. You start thinking about time, and when you get up there in your own years, you start realizing you could be next any day. There you go. Small block Chevys.